What's up, everybody? Welcome into another episode of Money Cannons. At least I am coming off a not so great week in college football, going 1-4 to put my record at 16-18. So I'm hoping to rebound, but Mr. Loose Bets went 3-2 to bring his record to a pretty impressive 18-12 on the year in college, which is good for, I believe that's 60%. Don't check me on the math, but good week for you, Loose.
Not too bad. And honestly, I posted this before the game started on Saturday because we got some news prior to game time about the who was it? One of the quarterbacks was out or something, and I mean that changed the entire composite of that game. To make it like, you definitely aren't going to take that line. So unfortunately, we had already played it on Wednesday, but hopefully nobody tailed us on that based on that information.
Yeah. I mean, stuff like that happens. It's inevitable. So, but
it's both the pro and con about, trying to take an early line. You want to get good value on it, but sometimes it bites you.
Mm-hmm. And that's a perfect reason for everybody listening to pay attention to Loose's best bets come Saturday morning. And also what I'm going to start doing, since I've had good success in the NFL so far at 12-8, I'm going to give my NFL bet starting on Sunday mornings now because, I'm feeling sharp. I'm feeling like a pro early on in the NFL. At least through 4 weeks. So, follow me, follow Loose for me for NFL, Loose for college best bets. But
yeah, I feel pretty confident in my college reads right now.
Yeah, and your record backs it up. And so far I'm holding down NFL and you're holding down college, which is fine with me. But let's go ahead and get into these games this weekend if you're down for it, Loose.
Sweet, let's do it.
All right, first game on our board, the board so carefully calculated by Mr. Loose. We have Navy at Air Force, Navy -10.
Is it at -10 now? All right. Yeah, I mean that's still so kind of the theme that I'm going to rock with until there's a reason not to is, I mean, Navy is as hot as it can be. -10, that line has obviously gone up. I think it was 8.5 when I first saw it. But 10 is still a great number. I wouldn't be surprised if, Navy should run up 17 or so on them. Air Force, not a bad team, but we've talked about it a couple times now. Navy's one of these teams that could potentially be in contention for the playoff.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Navy's looks like, it's probably the best Navy team so far that I've seen in my lifetime. I don't know about you, Luce, but
yeah,
I can never remember Navy being this dominant or, at least winning games.
Right.
This much early in the season when they're playing their out of conference opponents and whatnot. But so you're taking Navy -10?
Taking Navy -10, yeah.
Yeah.
And it's a bit of a risky play because there's a lot of public action on it too. Obviously, that's why that line has moved from 8.5 to 10. But sometimes we have to see that that's just not relevant.
Yeah, for sure. For me, I'm also taking Navy. I see no reason to doubt them right now. Much like you, and Air Force has struggled with some not so great opponents, and I think the only reason that line isn't higher is because it's at Air Force. I
Is
mean,
it? Yeah.
so that's I'm definitely in agreement there. I mean, we've backed Navy, or I've backed Navy on the money line against Memphis,
Yeah. Yeah. That
and
ended up being a good hit.
and um and that was part of my best week in college 2 weeks ago with my 6-1, which is brought quickly back down to earth with my 1-4 last week. But anyway, these service academies. I mean, we're going to talk about another one in our next game, but
Mm-hmm.
they're playing well right now.
They're not playing too bad.
So, but anyway, we are in agreement. Navy -10. Any more thoughts on that one?
No, sir.
Gotcha. All right, moving on. We have Army at Tulsa, and that line as of Thursday night around 10:30 is Army -12.5.
Yeah. Um, you know, kind of hitting the same theme that we just did with Navy. Army runs the ball like 95% of possessions, and they're
Mm-hmm.
one of the best in college football doing it right now. Um, Tulsa's not doing a great job of defending against the run. It's kind of a tough line, 12 and a half, but, I've actually got Army pegged at about 20 here. So I'm still going to take Army on the points there today.
Gotcha. Um, I look at the Army Black Knights or Golden Knights. I can't remember which color it is, but they obviously chew clock, run the ball, and
Mm-hmm.
at least so far, just like Navy, they're winning all their games too.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but to me, when I was just looking into this game, Army has gone over 51 points just one time this year in,
Mm-hmm.
in, in their wins. So I think my play for this one is the under 51.
Okay.
And Tulsa's not a terrible team. They've played some close games. They've
Yeah. Right.
won big once or twice, but I think 12 and a half just seems like too much for me. And
It's a tough line.
yeah. I mean, I think even if Navy was at 12 and a half in the last game, I probably would have looked for a different play. But it's
Yeah.
just it's a tricky number to me, so I'm just going to stick with the under 51.
Right. And I see what you're saying, and I agree to an extent. The only difference that I would say is I haven't really seen I haven't really seen Air Force be shy about scoring this year, whereas they have, in the past, traditionally, these schools, they don't necessarily chew clock, but, their drives take forever,
Yeah,
6, 7 minutes per drive, almost hold the ball for a whole quarter, but they're not doing that. They're having a lot more breakaway plays. Um, they're running some up tempo sets, and I, I I don't think the under is a bad play at all, but I'm fairly confident that they can, cover.
yeah. That's just what I'm feeling. And what does your model have this one at? You said Navy was what in the. Did you just say that this one was the one you had at 20, or
We've
was
got
that
them
the
both. I've got them both at 20.
wow? And that model
Actually,
loves
I take that back. I've got Navy at like 17.
okay. I guess your model loves America. I mean that's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
But
If you want a little sneak preview, it's got Tennessee at 23 too. So
oh hell yeah. um, if you want to back both of us, I mean parlay it. But I'm more confident in the under, and you're more confident on the spread. So that's all there is to it.
there you go. You could
Um,
always tease a few points, if you don't like either of those lines, tease the total up to 55, 56, and tease the spread down to 6 or 7 points.
yeah, I mean, that's a I'm a big fan of teasing games that I'm not crazy about.
Yeah,
Um, it's just a smart move whenever you're betting against on teams that not very familiar with. I mean, will fully admit I don't watch much Tulsa football,
yeah,
and I'm only aware of the military schools just because of how well they've been doing. So
right.
if you want to tease it up.
It's a
But
nice teaser.
yeah, any more thoughts on that one, Luce?
No, sir.
All right, moving on. We have East Carolina heading to Charlotte to play the 49ers.
Yeah.
Um, and again, as of Thursday night around 10:30, East Carolina minus 8.5.
Wow, I didn't know they were getting that much. Okay. Um, so ECU is actually a team that I ended up taking, on my own last week,
Mm-hmm.
and that was purely because they put out a tweet for their uniform combo, and it looked like they were ready to go. So I took that spread, and ECU covered, but I do not like them this week. I actually think Charlotte would be a good money line play. Uh, my model likes Charlotte to win the game, 1 point game. So I'm gonna take Charlotte on the plus points this week. Home dogs,
Yeah,
got to go with it.
that's interesting. I mean, when I looked into this game, the thing that stood out to me about what Charlotte has done so far, I mean, they've played like two of the best, well, probably the best team in North Carolina right now in James Madison or
Yes,
Dane Virginia. I don't remember. One of the best teams among the group of five, and they lost 30 to
definitely.
7. Yeah. North Carolina, who's been mired in the last 2 weeks with a coach who's on the brink of retirement. It seems like they lost to them 38-20 in week 2, which is it's not bad for a program like Charlotte going up against a Power Four school. But the one that really stood out to me was they beat Gardner Webb by 1 point.
Hmm.
They beat Rice by 1 point,
Hmm.
and this is a very good example of the gut or the perceived knowledge versus the model. And I ended up taking ECU minus 8.5.
Yeah, yeah. And ECU is a good football team. I think there's probably some more information in those two close games kind of being overlooked. Just like, nobody would have necessarily written Georgia off for keeping it 1 point against Kentucky.
No,
Although, that 1 point game looks a lot better after they went into Ole Miss and won.
for sure.
Um, but yeah, reasonable questions about Charlotte. Charlotte's far from a powerhouse football team. Um, but I like them at home. I like them to be able to keep the game close. They've got a couple of explosive players on offense that can break the game open.
Yep.
Um, and I've seen some weakness in ECU's tendency to turn the ball over.
Yeah.
They, handled it. They got it together last week, but we're going to take Charlotte.
Yeah. I mean, and looking at what ECU has done so far, I mean, they haven't played near the level of competition that Charlotte has. I mean,
Right.
the two decent teams they've played have been App State and Liberty. They lost both
Hmm.
of those.
I
Um,
don't know if I'd say App State's decent this year.
yeah, I mean, it
Traditionally, not a bad team. This
yeah,
year, oh my goodness, their defense is horrible.
yeah, and speaking of that, they lost. They only scored 19 against App State. So
Yeah,
I mean, that's
yeah,
probably some of what your model is taking into account there.
right, for sure.
Um, and then their game against Liberty was a 35-24 loss at Liberty. I mean, I can see both ways. I'm just feeling the gut a little bit more this
Hmm.
week. talking about the Buccaneers. So, any more thoughts on that one, Luce?
Nope. We can move on.
All right. Um, very, very interesting game next. We have, if my DraftKings will load again, we have UCF heading into the swamp.
Yes, sir.
And from my understanding, this opened at UCF -1, and now it is at UCF -2.5.
Oh, wow.
Very interesting. I mean, money coming in on a group of five. Well, actually, they're in the Big 12 now, but money coming in on a team going into the swamp that rarely goes into the swamp,
Right.
and it's just interesting. I mean, I think it obviously speaks to how bad Florida has looked at times this year. But first thoughts on this one, Luce?
And that's interesting that it moved that way because UCF just had uh, one of their receivers. He's going to redshirt for the season
Mm-hmm.
and transfer out. So, that's kind of the same situation with UNLV last week. However, UNLV obviously responded very positively.
Yeah, I'd say so.
Um, that's the game I ended up getting bit on so bad. But we saw UCF just get slaughtered by Colorado last week, and I absolutely am not gonna. I'm not gonna give Colorado any credit of being that good yet. I've seen some weakness with UCF this season. Mainly, they lost. Didn't they lose one? They lost one to TCU, right? Pretty close game. It would be absolutely disastrous for Florida to lose this football game.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, disastrous for multiple parties. So I'm going to take Florida to pull it together and pull this one out. I actually like not just the points. I would take the money line. But you can play it either way you want to.
Yeah. I mean, like you said, UCF just got absolutely handled at
Right.
home against
Defense,
Colorado.
again, defense absolutely terrible.
Yeah. I mean,
Non-existent.
and that was supposed to be, one of the, better games of last weekend. Save for the ultra big matchup of Georgia Alabama. I mean,
Yeah.
it was a close spread, and they got absolutely, just taken to the woodshed at home in the bounce house, as Denny White coined it a few years ago. Um, and I agree with you. I'm taking Florida +2.5. I just think, like you said, they're in a mode where they're going to play you know hard to win every game at this point. I mean, it might not work out against
Hmm.
the better teams, but I think the people who care on that
They've at
team about
least they've at least shown that they can get their offense moving.
yeah, I mean they played well against Mississippi State
Right.
before their bye week, and it looked like they figured out some things on offense. At least I still
Right.
think their defense is not anywhere
Not
close.
good.
Yeah, it's not great at all. And but like you said, Florida needs that. UCF is coming off a loss that knocked them off their perch a little bit so far. So I definitely think Florida +2.5 is the play, and I'm going to go ahead and do the 2.5 and
Yeah.
commit to that because I just like the security of at least 2 points. Talking about Florida when they've looked the way they've looked so far.
It's never a bad idea, to buy a couple of points if it's not trading off a ton. The line only moves what from plus 115 ish or so on the money line to minus 120 on the 2 points. So
Yeah,
I mean, that's that's worth it.
Yeah, virtually the same bet. So,
Right.
but any more thoughts on that one?
No, I I believe Florida will handle business, unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean, it would be, you know, just looking at it from a Tennessee angle. This is the game before they come to Neyland. Um, I don't know if them coming off a loss to a team like UCF in the state of Florida
Yeah.
would be a good thing for their motivation going into Knoxville. I know they'll be motivated anyway to go to Knoxville, but
Right. Right. They're always going to play their number one A game of the season against us. It does not matter how good or bad they are.
certainly seems like that. Certainly has seemed like it. But moving on to the next game, our final game, unless we pull one out of the hat here tonight. But Duke at I think it's Duke at Georgia Tech. Yes,
Yeah.
in
Duke at
in
Georgia Tech
downtown Atlanta. As of
at night.
yes, a 7 o'clock start. Um,
So, yeah, go ahead.
sorry. The line as of Thursday night, Georgia Tech -10.
Oh my good grief.
Yeah,
Are you kidding me?
yeah, and I'm pretty sure that one opened at Georgia Tech -8.5. So
Yeah, it did.
a lot of money has been coming in on the Yellow Jackets.
This is insane. I mean, so I can't for the life of me figure out why Georgia Tech is getting so many points here.
Yeah.
Or giving so many points, I should say. Um, the injury report for Duke doesn't look bad. They're not missing anybody significant. So I can't for the life of me understand why that line is so insane. The only thing I can think of is historically Georgia Tech in night games has been a tough game to play
Mm-hmm.
for even like great teams. Maybe that's what's going on here, but man, that 10 is just wild to me. I'm taking Duke, and this is another one where I actually think Duke can not just cover, but might win the game.
Yeah. I mean, Duke is undefeated. I mean,
Undefeated, and
say
I
what
mean
you want.
they had rolled over and died last week, basically.
Mm-hmm. And they came back from the dead against North Carolina, who
Mm-hmm.
obviously, like I mentioned earlier, has had their issues in the last 2 weeks. Um, letting James Madison score 50 something points in the first half and then
Right.
blowing that lead against Duke, of course, last week. But say what you want about who Duke has played, they're undefeated. And that was certainly not expected with Mike Elko leaving for Texas A&M. And especially when money's coming in on Georgia Tech the way it has, I'm fully in agreement on Duke +10. I really don't get it. I mean, I think Georgia Tech, you know, they had a close one with Louisville. I think the score was closer than the game really was in my eyes. Um, but they did end up losing. And then I think they're getting a lot of credit still for beating Florida
Yeah, they
State,
are. They are.
which right now I don't get why that would be a thing.
Not even
So
close.
I'm definitely on Duke
Yeah.
+10. And
Might be a trap. I don't know, but it's hard not to take that one.
yeah, and this is why we pick the games we do on this show. I mean, we just
Yeah.
look for these lines that are strange and play it accordingly. Like,
There's some really, really weird lines out there this week.
yeah. Um, I wanted to look at one more game unless you have any more thoughts
Yeah.
on.
There was
on
one other game that I almost put on the schedule. I initially really loved uh, the Boise State game.
mm-hmm,
Boise State versus Utah State. Boise State, Utah State. The line on early Tuesday, Wednesday was 23 and a half. I loved that line. Um, I think Boise can win by 35 here,
Yeah,
but that line has moved all the way to I think 29 now, and there's just absolutely no way
Woo.
I'm taking it.
It's a lot of money coming in on the Broncos.
Yeah,
Um, I
rightfully
like.
so. I mean, Ginty's the real deal.
I mean, he might be the best player in college football besides
He
Travis
might
Hunter.
be. He might be.
I mean, he's close to 1,000 yards already. Like that's crazy.
Dude,
I don't.
just I mean, he's it's crazy. They really don't do anything else in their offense. They run the ball. They don't have any other weapons. You'd think you'd think a team could just, load the box up and stop it, but he
Oh,
still finds lanes and still gets the ball moving.
yeah. I mean, just again from a Tennessee angle, could you imagine if Taylon Green, the Arkansas quarterback, was still on the team with him? The way Green can run the ball at
Yeah.
times. I mean, that would be nuts. But the game that I wanted to just glance at for a second, just see what you think. Um, the only ranked matchup of the weekend, as far as everything I've seen, it's the only one that I noticed. Missouri at Texas A&M,
Yeah.
and A&M at home is favored -2.5. And to
Hmm.
me, this game comes down as far as betting to do you think Missouri is a top 10 team or not?
Right.
So, your
Well,
thoughts?
and that I'll agree with you. It is an intriguing matchup. Um, this is one of those this is one of those games where you think, what's the purpose of this line? Like, what has Texas A&M shown that deserves them to be favored? Other than they handled business against Florida pretty easily, and then Mississippi or Missouri struggled against Vandy. But I think I think Vandy just happened to catch Missouri on a down week.
Yeah.
Um, if anything, I would probably lean towards Missouri on this game. I'm not taking any action on it, but seems like nearly a slam dunk on Missouri.
Yeah. I mean, that's also what I was thinking, just glancing at it. Um, like Texas A&M, they do have a decent defense. They sat on Arkansas last week and just, you know, suffocated them. I mean, an Arkansas offense that's pretty good at gaining yards, they held to 17 points.
Right.
Um, but that Missouri versus Vanderbilt game just seemed to me like you said, Missouri just wasn't ready or even taking that game seriously. And if Missouri's field goal kicker was decent, they would have won that game in regulation. But it happened the way it happened. But I I do believe, like you said, the line is the way it is just because of that Vanderbilt game. Like I
Yeah.
don't see how Texas A&M is even ranked really. I mean they're I guess they're 2-0 in conference. Um, I mean, and if you think back to week one, they were favored against Notre Dame by the same line. I'm pretty sure
Hmm.
of 2.5. And I can't remember if me and you both took Notre Dame, but I'm pretty sure I took Notre Dame and you took the under. I think that's how that went
I
down.
think that's how it worked out.
But both of those hit, and
Yeah.
I'm again backing the road team going down to College
Yeah.
Station. I'm going to go ahead and officially lock that in here after we conclude. But
Is
go ahead.
Do we know if Wegman's starting or is it going to be the other dude?
I think Reed will start
Yeah.
the NBA product from Nashville. I mean, their offenses looked a lot better, and
Yeah.
he can speak a sentence without you know sounding like a complete buffoon.
We won't go there.
I mean, it's true. Connor
Right.
Wegman speaking is like nails on a chalkboard to me. A
It's
guy
just
who,
it's
a
just the
guy,
regional accent, man.
I mean, a guy who grew up in the suburbs of Texas, trying to
Yeah.
talk like that, it's just unbecoming. But yeah, I'm pretty sure Reed's going to start, but I still think Missouri's going to handle business. I mean, I don't believe they're like a threat, but if they have any chance of making the playoff, they have to win, and that's how I'm reading that game. But do you have any more almost games that almost made the cut? Games that you all were also thinking about to talk about before we sign off here
Uh,
tonight?
no, nothing. I think we've hit everything.
There you go. Concluding, watch out for Luce's best bets
Yeah,
Saturday morning.
possibly I'm gonna have one on Saturday morning. We'll see.
Yeah, like we've said before, you don't want to force it. Um,
I
but
do I do like I do like the Vols to cover this week.
mm,
It's
is
another
it
one I'm not gonna take, but I
yeah,
do like the Vols to cover easily.
gotcha. So you like them, but not enough to break your rule.
Uh, I don't have the fire to break the rule this week.
Yeah, that's understandable.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, watch out if Luce has a best bet Saturday morning. To be determined. And as far as Sunday morning, I'll have my NFL picks, which I went 4-1 on last week. And just tooting my own horn here, I think Jags plus 6.5 and Minnesota plus 3 were two pretty sharp picks, and had success last week in the NFL. So if you want to follow me, watch out for my picks Sunday morning, which
Sunday
will be
picks.
absolutely. And both of these will be retweeted by the 1796 Sports account. And I think that's it, man.
All right.
As always, load the money cannons responsibly.
Yes, sir.